I never thought the worst betrayal of my life would happen in front of a room full of people holding wine glasses and pretending to care about gratitude. But that's exactly where it happened. At a Thanksgiving party. In a home that smelled like cinnamon and roasted turkey. Surrounded by laughter that wasn't meant for me. It was meant *at me. My name is Rachel, and I'm 34 years old. For the last 6 years, I thought I was building a life with someone who loved me. Turns out, I was just the punchline to a joke I didn't even know was being told. Before I tell you what I did, and trust me, what I did changed everything, I need you to understand how I got there. Because revenge isn't something you plan in a single moment. It's something that builds inside you, one humiliation at a time, until you finally snap. And when I snapped, I didn't just walk away. I made sure he felt every ounce of what he made me feel. If you're watching this from somewhere in the world right now, drop a comment and let me know where you're tuning in from. I want to know I'm not alone in this. And if you've ever been made to feel small by someone who was supposed to love you, stay with me. Because this story is for you. Also, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. You're going to want to see how this ends. And check the description box below. I've got more stories like this one. Stories about women who refused to stay silent when the world tried to break them. Now let me take you back to where it all started. I met Daniel 6 years ago at a fundraiser for a local non-profit. I was 28, working as an elementary school teacher, and he was 32, a finance analyst with a sharp suit and an even sharper smile. He wasn't the most handsome man in the room, but he had this confidence that made you want to be near him. Like he knew something the rest of us didn't. Like he had life figured out. I remember the first thing he ever said to me. I was standing near the dessert table, trying to decide between pumpkin pie and tiramisu, and he walked up beside me and said, "Go with the tiramisu. Life's too short for safe choices." I laughed. I thought it was charming. Looking back now, I realize that was the first red flag. Because Daniel never believed in safe choices, not when it came to dessert, not when it came to business, and definitely not when it came to me. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. It wasn't some grand romantic gesture. We were sitting on his couch, watching a rerun of *The Office*, and he just turned to me and said, "We should get married." I blinked at him. "Are you serious?" He shrugged. "Yeah. Why not? Why not?" I repeated, half laughing. "Daniel, that's not exactly a romantic proposal." He smiled, that same confident smile that had hooked me in the first place. "I don't need to be romantic, Rachel. You already love me." And the worst part? He was right. So I said yes. We got married 4 years ago in a small ceremony. Nothing fancy. Just close family and a few friends. I wore a dress I bought off the rack at a department store, and Daniel wore the same suit he wore to work. It was simple. Practical. And at the time, I thought that was what love looked like when you grew up. But here's the thing about Daniel, he was always just a little bit out of reach. Even when we were together, even when we were lying in bed at night, I could feel this distance between us. Like he was keeping a part of himself locked away, and I was never going to get the key. I told myself it was just his personality. That some people aren't good at expressing their emotions. That love didn't always look like the movies. But deep down, I knew. I knew he didn't see me the way I saw him. I just didn't know how little he thought of me until that Thanksgiving party. The first 3 years of our marriage were fine. Not great. Not terrible. Just fine. We fell into a routine. I taught 2nd grade at a public school in our town. Daniel worked long hours at his firm, climbing the corporate ladder one spreadsheet at a time. We had a small house with a backyard we never used and a guest bedroom we kept saying would turn into a nursery someday. Someday. That word hung over us like a promise neither of us was ready to keep. We didn't fight much. But we didn't laugh much either. We existed side by side, like 2 people sharing a space but not really sharing a life. And then, slowly, things started to shift. Daniel started coming home later. He'd say he was working on a big project, that his boss was breathing down his neck, that he just needed to put in the hours now so we could have a better life later. I believed him. Because I wanted to. But then I started noticing little things. The way he'd smile at his phone and then quickly put it away when I walked into the room. The way he'd take calls in the garage instead of in front of me. The way he'd started dressing better, wearing cologne I didn't recognize, styling his hair differently. I asked him about it once. "You look nice," I said. "Special occasion." He glanced at me, almost surprised I'd noticed. "Just trying to look more professional. Image matters in my line of work." I nodded. I didn't push. Because pushing meant admitting that something was wrong, and I wasn't ready to do that yet. But the truth has a way of creeping up on you, even when you're trying your hardest to ignore it. It was late October, just a few weeks before Thanksgiving, when I found the first real piece of evidence. Daniel had left his laptop open on the kitchen table. He was in the shower, and I was making coffee, and I glanced over and saw an email notification pop up on the screen. I wasn't trying to snoop. I swear I wasn't. But the subject line caught my eye. "Can't wait to see you again. Asterisk." My stomach dropped. I stood there, holding my coffee mug, staring at that screen, my heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I knew I shouldn't look. I knew it was a violation of trust. But then I thought about all the late nights. All the deflections. All the times he'd made me feel like I was imagining things. So I clicked. The email was from a woman named Vanessa. She worked at his firm. The message was short, flirty, filled with inside jokes I didn't understand. And at the bottom, she'd written, "Last week was amazing. Let's do it again soon. XO. I felt like the floor had opened up beneath me. I closed the laptop. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Because I needed to know more. I needed to know if this was real, or if I was overreacting, or if there was some innocent explanation I wasn't seeing. So I waited. And I watched. And over the next few weeks, I saw the truth unravel, piece by piece, until there was no denying it anymore. Daniel wasn't just distant. He was cheating on me. I didn't confront him right away. I couldn't. Because once you say the words out loud, once you accuse someone of betrayal, you can't take it back. And part of me, God, I hate admitting this, part of me still hoped I was wrong. So I became a detective in my own marriage. I started paying attention to everything. When he said he was working late, I'd call his office. Sometimes he'd answer. Sometimes he wouldn't. When he came home smelling like perfume, I'd ask him about it, and he'd laugh and say one of the women at work had hugged him goodbye after a stressful meeting. "She's just affectionate like that," he'd say, shrugging it off like it was nothing. And I'd nod. I'd smile. I'd pretend I believed him. Because what else could I do? If you've ever been in a relationship where you knew something was wrong but couldn't prove it, you know exactly how I felt in that moment. It's like standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting for someone to push you, but they just keep smiling at you instead. I checked his phone once, late at night when he was asleep. I knew his passcode. He'd never bothered to hide it from me before. But when I tried to unlock it, the code didn't work. He'd changed it. I stood there in the dark, holding his phone, my hands shaking, and I realized that this was it. This was the proof I didn't want but needed. He was hiding something. And he didn't care if I knew. The next morning, I asked him about it. Casual. Light. Like it didn't matter. "Hey, I tried to use your phone last night to check the time, but your passcode didn't work. Did you change it?" He didn't even look up from his coffee. "Yeah. My boss said we needed to update our security settings. Work policy." "Oh," I said. "That makes sense." But it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense at all. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab him by the shoulders and shake him and demand the truth. But instead, I just stood there, smiling, pretending everything was fine. Because that's what you do when you're afraid of losing someone, even when you know they're already gone. The weeks leading up to Thanksgiving were some of the worst of my life. I threw myself into work, spending extra hours at school, staying late to grade papers and plan lessons. Anything to avoid going home to a house that didn't feel like mine anymore. My coworker, Jennifer, noticed. She pulled me aside one afternoon after the kids had left and said, "Rachel, are you okay? You've seemed off lately." I forced a smile. "I'm fine. Just tired." She didn't look convinced. "If you ever need to talk, I'm here. You know that, right?" I nodded. "I know. Thanks, Jen." But I didn't talk. Because talking meant admitting that my marriage was falling apart, and I wasn't ready to do that yet. Not to her. Not to anyone. Not even to myself. Thanksgiving was supposed to be at Daniel's friend Kevin's house. Kevin was one of those guys who made a big deal out of every holiday. Elaborate decorations, catered food, an open bar. He and his wife, Lindsay, hosted every year, and it was always this huge event with 30 or 40 people crammed into their house, drinking and laughing and pretending they enjoyed each other's company. I hated it. But Daniel loved it. He loved the spectacle. He loved the attention. He loved being the guy everyone wanted to talk to. "We have to go," he said when I suggested we skip it this year. "Kevin would kill me if we didn't show up." "I'm just not in the mood," I said. "It's been a long few weeks. Can't we just stay home? Make our own dinner?" He looked at me like I'd suggested we burn the house down. "Rachel, we go every year. It's tradition." "Tradition," I repeated. "Right." He sighed. "What's your problem?" "Nothing," I said. "I'll go." Because arguing wasn't worth it. Not anymore. The night of the party, I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection, wondering how I'd gotten here. I was wearing a navy blue dress, nothing fancy, nothing that would draw attention. My hair was pulled back in a low bun. I looked tired. I looked small. I looked like someone who'd given up. Daniel came up behind me, adjusting his tie. "You ready?" I met his eyes in the mirror. "Yeah, I'm ready." He didn't notice the emptiness in my voice. Or maybe he did, and he just didn't care. We drove to Kevin's house in silence. The streets were decorated with Thanksgiving lights, and the air smelled like wood smoke and fallen leaves. It should have felt cozy, comforting. Instead, it felt like a countdown to something terrible. When we pulled up to the house, I could already hear the noise spilling out onto the front lawn. Laughter, music, the clinking of glasses. Daniel's face lit up. This was his element. "Come on," he said, grabbing my hand. "Let's have some fun." But his hand felt cold. And the word fun sounded like a lie. We walked inside, and immediately, Daniel was swept up in a crowd of people. Kevin clapped him on the back. Lindsay kissed him on the cheek. Someone handed him a beer, and within seconds, he was laughing and talking like he didn't have a care in the world. And me. I stood off to the side, holding a glass of wine I didn't want, watching my husband become someone I didn't recognize. I tried to mingle. I really did. I talked to a few people I vaguely knew from previous years. But every conversation felt forced. Every smile felt fake. And then, about an hour into the party, I heard it. Daniel's voice, loud and clear, cutting through the noise. "I doubt this thing called marriage will even last." I froze. I was standing near the hallway, half hidden behind a group of people, and I turned toward the sound of his voice. He was standing in the living room with 3 of his friends, Kevin, a guy named Brett, and someone I didn't recognize. They were all holding drinks, all laughing, and Daniel was in the middle, talking like he was performing. "Seriously," he continued, his voice dripping with arrogance. "She's not in my class. I don't even know why I went through with it." The room seemed to tilt. Brett laughed. "So why did you?" Daniel shrugged. "I don't know. I guess I felt bad for her. She was sweet. Naive. I thought maybe I could make it work. Kevin clapped him on the shoulder. You're a good guy, man. Most people would have bailed. They laughed. All of them. Like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. And I just stood there, frozen, my heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. You know that moment when your entire world shifts, and suddenly everything you thought you knew feels like a lie? That's what it felt like, standing there, listening to my husband, my husband mock our marriage in front of his friends like it was some kind of joke he'd been playing for years. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt tight, like someone had wrapped their hands around my lungs and squeezed. My hands were shaking so badly I had to set my wine glass down on a nearby table before I dropped it. I wanted to run. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to rewind time and never come to this party, never marry this man, never let myself believe that someone like Daniel could ever really love someone like me. But I didn't run. Because something else was happening inside me. Something darker. Something that had been building for weeks, maybe months, maybe even years. Anger. Not the kind of anger that makes you yell or cry. The kind that makes you cold. The kind that makes you dangerous. I took a breath. And then another. And then I walked into that living room like I owned it. Daniel didn't see me at first. He was too busy basking in the attention, too busy playing the role of the charming, long-suffering husband who'd made a mistake and was too polite to admit it. But Kevin saw me. His eyes widened, and he nudged Daniel, nodding in my direction. Daniel turned, and for just a second, just 1 second, I saw panic flash across his face. Good. I walked right up to him, my heels clicking against the hardwood floor, and I smiled. Not a sad smile. Not a broken smile. A calm, controlled smile that I knew would unsettle him. Hey, he said, his voice a little too loud, a little too bright. There you are. We were just. I heard, I said, cutting him off. The room went quiet. Not completely silent, but quiet enough that I knew people were listening. Quiet enough that I knew I had an audience. Daniel laughed nervously. Rachel, come on. We were just joking around. Joking, I repeated, my voice steady. Right. Brett shifted uncomfortably. Kevin looked down at his drink. I kept my eyes on Daniel. You said you doubt this thing called marriage will even last. That I'm not in your class. Did I hear that right? He opened his mouth, then closed it. Rachel, you're taking it out of context. Context, I said, nodding slowly. Okay. Then explain the context to me, Daniel. Explain to me how there's a context in which it's okay to say that about your wife. He didn't answer. He just stood there, looking at me like I was the one causing a scene. And maybe I was. But I didn't care. I turned to Kevin, to Brett, to the guy I didn't recognize. Did you think it was funny when he said that? None of them spoke. Yeah, I said softly. That's what I thought. Then I turned back to Daniel. And I said the words that would change everything. Why did you marry me then? If I'm so beneath you, if this marriage is such a joke, why did you bother? He blinked. Rachel. No, I said, shaking my head. I'm serious. Why? He looked around, desperate for someone to save him, but no one moved. I loved you, he said finally, his voice quiet. Loved, I said. Past tense. I love you, he corrected, but it sounded hollow. Like he was reading lines from a script. I smiled again. That same calm, cold smile. Let's just end it now, I said. The room froze. Daniel stared at me like I'd just slapped him. What? You heard me, I said. Let's end it. Let's stop pretending. You don't love me. You don't respect me. So let's just be done. Rachel, you're being ridiculous. Am I? I said, my voice rising just slightly. Am I being ridiculous, Daniel? Or am I finally seeing things clearly for the first time in years? He didn't answer. I took a step back. I'm leaving. And when I get home, I'm packing a bag. You can have the house. You can have everything. Because I'm done. And then I turned and walked out. I didn't wait for him to respond. I didn't wait to see the looks on everyone's faces. I just walked out the front door, down the driveway, and into the cold November night. I didn't have a car. Daniel had driven us. But I didn't care. I started walking, my heels clicking against the pavement, my breath coming out in clouds of white mist. I made it 2 blocks before I started crying. Not because I was sad. Because I was free. I pulled out my phone and called an Uber. My hands were still shaking, but I managed to type in my address. While I waited, I stood under streetlight, hugging myself against the cold, and I thought about what I'd just done. I'd walked away. From my marriage. From my husband. From the life I'd built. And it felt like the first honest thing I'd done in years. The Uber pulled up 10 minutes later. I climbed into the back seat, and the driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, I'm okay." And for the first time in a long time, I actually believed it. When I got home, the house was dark and empty. I turned on the lights and stood in the hallway, looking around at the space that used to feel like mine. It didn't anymore. I went upstairs and pulled a suitcase out of the closet. I didn't pack much. Just clothes, toiletries, a few personal items. I didn't want anything that reminded me of him. I was almost finished when my phone buzzed. A text message. I assumed it was Daniel. I assumed it was some pathetic apology or some angry rant about how I'd embarrassed him in front of his friends. But it wasn't Daniel. It was from a number I didn't recognize. I opened it. And my breath caught. The message was short. Just one line. Asterisk, you deserve to know the truth. Meet me tomorrow. 10 a.m. coffee shop on Main Street. Asterisk. My heart started racing. I stared at the screen, my mind spinning. Who was this? What truth? I scrolled up, looking for any previous messages from this number, but there were none. I typed back, asterisk, who is this? Asterisk. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally, a response, asterisk, someone who's been watching. Someone who knows what he did. Asterisk. I felt my stomach drop. Asterisk, what he did. Asterisk. Another pause. Then, asterisk, just meet me. You'll understand. Asterisk. I sat down on the edge of the bed, my hands trembling, my mind racing. This could be a trap. This could be Daniel trying to manipulate me, trying to get me to come back. But something told me it wasn't. Something told me this was real. I typed one more message, asterisk, how do I know I can trust you? Asterisk. The response came almost immediately. Asterisk, because I was there. At the party. And I saw what he did to you. And you deserve better. Asterisk. I stared at those words for a long time. Asterisk, you deserve better. Asterisk. I hadn't heard that in so long, I'd almost forgotten what it felt like. I typed back, asterisk, I'll be there. Asterisk. And then I turned off my phone, lay down on the bed, and stared at the ceiling, wondering what the hell I'd just gotten myself into. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying the same questions over and over again. Who sent that message? What did they know? And why did they want to meet me? Part of me wondered if it was some kind of sick joke. Maybe one of Daniel's friends, trying to mess with me, trying to make me look even more foolish than I already felt. But another part of me, the part that had been screaming for months that something was wrong, knew this was real. Someone knew something. And I needed to find out what it was. I got out of bed around 6 in the morning, even though I had 4 hours to kill before the meeting. I made coffee, but I didn't drink it. I sat on the couch, staring at my phone, waiting for another message. Nothing came. Daniel hadn't come home. I didn't know where he'd gone. Maybe he stayed at Kevin's. Maybe he went to Vanessa's. Maybe he was driving around, trying to figure out how to spin this, how to make me the villain. I didn't care. I was done caring. At 9:30, I got dressed. Jeans, a sweater, boots. I didn't bother with makeup. I didn't bother trying to look like someone I wasn't anymore. I grabbed my keys and left. The coffee shop was on Main Street, a little place called *The Grind Star. I'd been there a few times before, usually on weekends, when I needed to escape the house and grade papers in peace. It was busy when I walked in. The smell of roasted coffee beans and cinnamon hit me immediately, and for a second, I felt almost normal. Like this was just another Saturday morning, and I was just another person getting coffee. But then I remembered why I was here, and the normalcy evaporated. I scanned the room, looking for, I didn't even know what. A stranger. Someone I recognized. And then I saw him. Sitting in the corner, by the window, was a man I'd seen before. At the party. He'd been standing near Daniel and his friends, but he hadn't been part of the conversation. He'd been watching. Listening. He was tall, maybe late 30s, with dark hair and a tired expression. He wore a simple grey sweater and jeans, and when he saw me, he raised his hand slightly, acknowledging me. I walked over, my heart pounding. "Rachel," he said, standing up. "Thanks for coming." "Who are you?" I asked, not sitting down yet. "My name's Julian," he said. "I'm Kevin's brother." I blinked. Kevin's brother. He nodded. "I don't come around much. Kevin and we don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. But I was at the party last night, and I saw what happened." I sat down slowly, my hands gripping the edge of the table. "What do you want?" Julian looked at me for a long moment, like he was deciding how much to say. Then he leaned back in his chair and sighed. "I want to tell you the truth," he said. "Because you deserve to know. And because nobody else is going to tell you." My throat felt tight. "What truth?" He hesitated. Then he pulled out his phone, scrolled for a second, and turned the screen toward me. It was a photo. Taken at the party. In the background, near the kitchen, I could see Daniel. And next to him, with her hand on his arm, was Vanessa. I felt my stomach twist. "Who is she?" I asked, even though I already knew. "Her name's Vanessa Cole," Julian said. "She works with Daniel. And she's been sleeping with him for the last 8 months. 8 months. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. "How do you know?" I whispered. "Because Kevin knows," Julian said. "They all know. Daniel's been bragging about it for months. About how he's got this hot young thing at work, and how his wife doesn't have a clue." I closed my eyes, willing myself not to cry. "Not here. Not in front of this stranger. Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because I'm tired of watching men like Daniel get away with it," Julian said, his voice low and angry. "I'm tired of watching them humiliate their wives, treat them like they're disposable, and then act like they're the victims when they get called out." He leaned forward. "Rachel, I don't know you. But I know what it's like to watch someone you love get destroyed by someone who's supposed to care about them. And I couldn't just sit there and let it happen to you." I looked down at the photo again. Daniel and Vanessa. Smiling. Close. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Because they're cowards," Julian said simply. "Kevin, Brett, all of them. They'd rather protect their buddy than do the right thing." I wiped my eyes, trying to pull myself together. "What else do you know?" Julian hesitated. Then he said, "There's more. But I don't know if you want to hear it." "Tell me," I said. "I need to know everything." He took a breath. "Daniel's been planning to leave you for a while now. He's been talking to a divorce lawyer. He's been moving money around, setting things up so that when he files, you won't get anything." I stared at him. "What?" "He's been transferring money into offshore accounts. Hiding assets. He's been preparing for this, Rachel. He's been planning to screw you over for months. I felt like the ground had disappeared beneath me. All this time, while I'd been trying to save our marriage, while I'd been pretending everything was fine, he'd been plotting to destroy me. Why hasn't he filed yet? I asked. Julian shrugged. I don't know. Maybe he's waiting for the right moment. Maybe he's trying to figure out how to do it without looking like the bad guy. But trust me, it's coming. I sat there, numb, trying to process everything he'd just told me. 8 months. Offshore accounts. A divorce lawyer. Daniel hadn't just been cheating on me. He'd been systematically dismantling our life, piece by piece, making sure that when he finally left, I'd be left with nothing. What do? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Julian looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, you fight back. How? He leaned forward. You get a lawyer. A good one. You document everything. You make sure that when this goes to court, you're the one who comes out on top. I don't have money for a lawyer, I said. He controls all the accounts. Then you take control back, Julian said. You get copies of the bank statements. You find out where he's hiding the money. You build a case. I shook my head. I can't. Yes, you can, Julian said firmly. Rachel, I know this is hard. I know you're scared. But you can't let him win. You can't let him take everything from you. I looked at him, this stranger who just upended my entire world, and I realized he was right. I couldn't let Daniel win. Not after everything he'd done to me. Okay, I said. I'll do it. Julian nodded. Good. I'll help you. I know people. Lawyers, private investigators. Whatever you need. Why are you doing this? I asked. He looked away, his jaw tightening. Because my sister went through the same thing. And she didn't have anyone to help her. And now she's broke, and he's living in a mansion with his new wife. He looked back at me. I'm not going to let that happen to you. I felt tears prick my eyes again, but this time, they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of gratitude. Thank you, I whispered. Julian reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You're going to get through this, Rachel. I promise. And for the first time since the party, I actually believed it. Over the next week, I became someone I didn't recognize. Someone calculated. Someone willing to do whatever it took to protect myself. Julian introduced me to a lawyer named Patricia Hollis. She was in her 50s, sharp as a knife, with grey hair pulled back in a tight bun and a no-nonsense attitude that made me feel safer than I had in months. Your husband's been planning this for a while, Patricia said during our first meeting, looking over the documents Julian had helped me gather. But he's also been sloppy, arrogant. He thinks you won't fight back. He's right, I said. I wouldn't have. Not before. Patricia looked up at me, her eyes piercing. And now? Now I will, I said. She smiled. Good. Because we're going to take him for everything he's worth. The first step was getting access to our financial records. Daniel had locked me out of the main accounts weeks ago, but I still had access to our joint credit card statements. I started going through them, line by line, looking for anything suspicious. And I found it. There were charges I didn't recognize. Expensive dinners at restaurants we'd never been to together. Hotel rooms. Jewelry purchases. Plane tickets. All of it pointed to one thing, Vanessa. I took screenshots of everything. I saved every receipt, every statement, every piece of evidence I could find. But that wasn't enough. Patricia suggested I hire a private investigator. His name was Marcus. No, wait. His name was Owen. Owen Briggs. He was ex-military, quiet, and efficient. He didn't ask unnecessary questions. He just got the job done. I need you to follow Daniel, I told him during our first meeting. I need proof that he's been cheating. Photos, videos, whatever you can get. Owen nodded. How long has this been going on? At least 8 months, I said. Probably longer. He made a note. I'll start tomorrow. And he did. For the next 2 weeks, Owen followed Daniel everywhere. To work. To lunch meetings. To Vanessa's apartment. And he got everything on camera. Photos of them kissing in parking lots. Videos of them walking into hotels together. Text messages Owen managed to recover from Daniel's phone. Messages that were so explicit, so degrading, I couldn't even read them all the way through. But I kept them. Because I needed them. If you've ever had to build a case against someone you loved, you know how soul-crushing it is. Every photo, every message, every piece of evidence felt like another nail in the coffin of the life I thought I had. But I didn't stop. Because stopping meant letting Daniel win. And I wasn't going to let that happen. While Owen was gathering evidence, I started making my own moves. I opened a new bank account, one Daniel didn't know about. I started transferring small amounts of money from our joint account, just enough to build a safety net, but not enough to raise red flags. I changed the passwords on all of my personal accounts. I started documenting everything, every conversation we had, every time he came home late, every lie he told. I was building a case. And I was doing it right under his nose. Daniel, meanwhile, had no idea. He came home sporadically over those 2 weeks, acting like nothing had changed. Like the party had never happened. Like I hadn't walked out on him. He tried to talk to me, tried to smooth things over, but I kept my distance. I was polite but cold. I didn't engage. I didn't fight. I just watched. And waited. Rachel, we need to talk, he said one night, cornering me in the kitchen. About what? I asked, not looking up from the dish I was washing. About us, he said. About what happened at the party. There's nothing to talk about, I said calmly. You said what you said. I heard it. That's all there is. Rachel, I was drunk, he said, his voice taking on that familiar pleading tone. I didn't mean it. You know I didn't mean it. I finally turned to look at him. Didn't you? He opened his mouth, then closed it. You're being unreasonable. Unreasonable, I repeated, setting down the dish. You humiliated me in front of your friends. You told them our marriage was a joke. And I'm being unreasonable. I was just blowing off steam, he said. Guys talk. That's all it was. I nodded slowly. Okay. Fine. He blinked, surprised. Fine. Yeah, I said. Fine. You were just talking. I overreacted. Let's just move on. I could see the relief flood his face. He actually believed I was backing down. Thank you, he said, reaching for my hand. I knew you'd understand. I let him take my hand, even though my skin crawled at his touch. I smiled at him, that same cold smile I'd perfected over the past few weeks. Of course, I said. I understand perfectly. He squeezed my hand, then kissed my forehead. I love you, Rachel. I love you too, I lied. And as he walked away, I felt nothing. No guilt. No sadness. Nothing. Because I knew exactly what I was doing. And I knew exactly how this was going to end. By the 3rd week, Owen had compiled everything we needed. He came to Patricia's office with a thick folder full of evidence, and we sat down to go through it all. Photos of Daniel and Vanessa together. Dozens of them. Time-stamped, dated, undeniable. Bank statements showing the money he'd been hiding. Wire transfers to offshore accounts. Credit card statements with charges that couldn't be explained away. Text messages. Emails. Voicemails. It was all there. Every piece of betrayal, documented and ready to be used. Patricia looked through it all with a satisfied expression. This is good. This is very good. What happens now? I asked. She leaned back in her chair. Now we file. We hit him hard and fast, before he even knows what's happening. We freeze the accounts. We file for divorce on grounds of adultery. And we make sure that when this is all over, you walk away with everything you're entitled to. What about Vanessa? I asked. Does she know about any of this? Patricia raised an eyebrow. Why? You want to go after her too? No, I said. I need to know if she knows. If she knows about me. Owen spoke up for the first time. She knows. I overheard one of their conversations. She knows you exist. She just doesn't care. I felt that familiar twist in my stomach. So she's been sleeping with my husband, knowing he's married, for 8 months. Yeah, Owen said. That about sums it up. I nodded slowly. Then she deserves to know the truth too. Patricia frowned. Rachel, I'd advise against that. Getting involved with the other woman never ends well. I'm not going to confront her, I said. I just want her to know what kind of man she's dealing with. How? Patricia asked. I thought for a moment. Then I smiled. I'll send her a gift. Patricia and Owen exchanged glances. What kind of gift? Patricia asked cautiously. The kind that makes her question everything, I said. The kind that plants a seed of doubt she won't be able to ignore. And that's exactly what I did. I spent an entire evening crafting the perfect package. Inside, I included copies of some of the text messages between Daniel and me. Messages where he talked about his future with me, about wanting kids, about growing old together. Messages that proved I wasn't just some obstacle in his path. I was his asterisk wife star. And he'd made promises to me. I also included a handwritten note. Short. Simple. Devastating. Asterisk, he told me he loved me too. How do you know you're any different? Asterisk. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. I addressed the package to Vanessa's apartment. Owen had given me the address, and I mailed it from a post office across town. And then I waited. 3 days later, Owen called me. You're not going to believe this, he said. What happened? Vanessa showed up at Daniel's office today. Started screaming at him in front of everyone. Threw the package you sent at his head. Security had to escort her out. I felt a smile spread across my face. What did she say? She called him a liar. Said he'd been playing her the whole time. Said she never wanted to see him again. Did he deny it? I asked. He tried, Owen said. But it didn't matter. She was done. Half the office saw the whole thing. His reputation is shot. I closed my eyes, savoring the moment. Good. Rachel, Owen said, his voice careful. You know this means he's going to figure out you're behind it. Let him, I said. I'm not hiding anymore. And I wasn't. That night, Daniel came home in a rage. He slammed the door so hard the walls shook. I was sitting on the couch, reading a book, and I didn't even flinch when he stormed into the living room. What the hell did you do? He shouted. I looked up calmly. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play dumb, Rachel, he snarled. Vanessa got a package. With our private messages. With a note that could only have come from you. Interesting, I said, turning a page in my book. Sounds like someone wanted her to know the truth. You had no right. No right. I said, finally looking at him. Daniel, you've been sleeping with her for 8 months. You've been lying to me, stealing from me, planning to divorce me and leave me with nothing. And you're talking to me about asterisk rights asterisk. His face went pale. How did you? I know everything, I said, standing up. I know about the offshore accounts. I know about the lawyer. I know about every lie you've told, Every dollar you've hidden, every night you spent with her. He stared at me, and for the first time, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. You've been spying on me, he said. I've been protecting myself, I corrected. There's a difference. Rachel, you're making a huge mistake. No, I said, cutting him off. You made the mistake. You underestimated me. You thought I'd just sit there and take it. You thought I was too weak, too stupid, too asterisk beneath you asterisk to fight back. I stepped closer to him. But you were wrong. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. I filed for divorce, I said. My lawyer will be contacting you tomorrow. And trust me, Daniel, by the time this is over, you're going to wish you'd treated me better. His face twisted with anger. You think you can take me on? You think you can win? I already have, I said quietly. And then I walked past him, grabbed my bag, and left. I didn't look back. The next few weeks were a blur of lawyers, paperwork, and phone calls. But through it all, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Power. Patricia filed the divorce papers on a Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, Daniel had been served at his office. Owen told me later that Daniel had turned white as a sheet when the process server handed him the envelope. Good. The divorce wasn't going to be quick or easy. Daniel hired his own lawyer, a man named Richard Ashford who had a reputation for being ruthless. But Patricia was better. She was smarter, more prepared, and she had something Richard didn't, the truth on her side. Daniel tried to play the victim. He told people I'd blindsided him, that I was being vindictive, that I was taking advantage of a rough patch in our marriage. But the evidence didn't lie. Patricia presented the photos, the text messages, the bank records. She showed the judge exactly what Daniel had been doing, and she made it clear that he'd been planning this for months. The judge wasn't impressed. Mr. Keller, she said during one of our hearings, her voice cold. It's clear to me that you've been engaging in marital misconduct and financial dishonesty. I'm ordering an immediate freeze on all marital assets until this case is resolved. Daniel's face went red. Your Honor, that's not. I'm not finished, the judge said. I'm also ordering you to provide full disclosure of all accounts, including any offshore holdings. If you fail to comply, you'll be held in contempt. I watched Daniel squirm in his seat, and I felt nothing but satisfaction. After the hearing, Daniel tried to corner me in the hallway. Rachel, please, he said. We can work this out. We don't need to do this. Yes, we do, I said, not stopping. I made a mistake, he said, following me. But we can get past this. We can go to counseling, we can. Daniel, I said, finally turning to face him. You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. Over and over again, for 8 months, you chose to betray me. And now you're going to live with the consequences. You're really going to destroy me over this? He asked, his voice rising. I'm not destroying you, I said calmly. I'm just making sure you don't destroy me. And then I walked away, leaving him standing there, helpless. While the divorce was pending, I moved out of our house and into a small apartment across town. It wasn't much, just a 1-bedroom with a tiny kitchen and a view of the parking lot, but it was mine. And that was all that mattered. Jennifer, my coworker, helped me move. She didn't ask too many questions, but I could tell she wanted to. Finally, as we were unpacking boxes in the kitchen, she said, Rachel, what happened? One day you were married, and now. I set down the box I was holding and looked at her. He cheated. 4 months. And he was planning to leave me with nothing. Her eyes went wide. Oh my God. Yeah, I said. So I'm taking him to court. And I'm making sure he pays for what he did. Jennifer hugged me, and for a moment, I let myself feel the weight of everything that had happened. The betrayal. The pain. The anger. But then I pulled back and wiped my eyes. I'm okay, I said. Really? I'm better than okay. And I was. For the first time in years, I felt like I was in control of my own life. I wasn't waiting for Daniel to come home, wasn't walking on eggshells, wasn't pretending to be someone I wasn't. I was just me. And that was enough. But the universe wasn't done with me yet. One night, about a month after I'd moved out, I got a phone call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello. Rachel. It's Julian. I sat up straighter. I hadn't heard from Julian since that day at the coffee shop. Hey. What's going on? I need to tell you something, he said, his voice tense. Something I should have told you before. My stomach tightened. What is it? He hesitated. It's about Vanessa. What about her? She's pregnant. The words hit me like a freight train. What? She's pregnant, Julian repeated. About 3 months along. And she's telling everyone it's Daniel's. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I just sat there, frozen, trying to process what he'd just said. Rachel, are you still there? Yeah, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm here. I'm sorry, Julian said. I didn't want to tell you over the phone, but I thought you should know. Does Daniel know? I asked. Not yet, Julian said. At least, not as of this morning. But she's planning to tell him soon. I closed my eyes, trying to steady myself. Okay. Thanks for telling me. Rachel, are you okay? I will be, I said. I have to go. I hung up before he could say anything else. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at the wall, trying to make sense of what I'd just learned. Daniel was going to be a father. With Vanessa. The woman he'd been cheating on me with. The woman who was supposed to be out of his life after the scene she'd caused at his office. But she wasn't out of his life. She was more in it than ever. And suddenly, I realized something. The divorce wasn't over. The fight wasn't over. Because now there was a baby involved. And that changed everything. I spent the rest of the night pacing my apartment, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to use this. To tell Patricia, to bring it up in court, to show the judge that Daniel wasn't just a cheater. He was a man who'd fathered a child with his mistress while still legally married to me. But another part of me, the part that was still human, still capable of feeling something other than anger, hesitated. Because a baby didn't ask to be born into this mess. A baby didn't deserve to be used as a weapon in a war between two people who couldn't stand each other anymore. But then I thought about everything Daniel had done to me. The lies. The betrayal. The way he tried to leave me with nothing. And I made a decision. I called Patricia the next morning. I need you to do something, I said. What? Vanessa's pregnant. It's Daniel's. There was a pause. Are you sure? Julian told me. He's Kevin's brother. He's been keeping tabs on the situation. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "This is good for us." How? Because it proves he was having an ongoing affair. It proves this wasn't just a one-time mistake. And it gives us leverage. What kind of leverage? If he wants to avoid having this come out in court, he might be willing to settle. Quickly. And on our terms. I thought about that. You think he'd do that? If he's smart, he will, Patricia said. Because if this goes to trial, and the judge finds out about the baby, it's not going to look good for him. Do it, I said. Make him settle. Are you sure? I'm sure, I said. I want this over. I want to move on with my life. And I did. Patricia reached out to Richard Ashford that afternoon. She laid out the evidence, the affair, the financial dishonesty, and now the pregnancy. She made it clear that if Daniel wanted to avoid a public trial, he'd need to come to the table. 3 days later, Richard called Patricia back with an offer. Daniel was willing to settle. He'd split the assets 50-50. He'd pay spousal support for 2 years. And he'd sign the divorce papers immediately. What do you think? Patricia asked me when she called to relay the offer. I thought about it. 50-50 wasn't everything I was owed. But it was enough. Enough to start over. Enough to build a new life. Tell him yes, I said. Are you sure? We could push for more. I'm sure, I said. I don't want to fight anymore. I just want to be done. Patricia paused. Okay. I'll draw up the papers. And just like that, it was over. A week later, I sat in Patricia's office and signed the final divorce decree. Daniel signed his copy remotely. We didn't see each other. We didn't speak. We just ended. When I walked out of that office, I felt lighter than I had in years. Like I'd finally set down a weight I'd been carrying for too long. I was free. I thought that was the end of the story. I really did. I thought I'd sign the papers, collect my settlement, and move on with my life. Start fresh. Maybe travel. Maybe go back to school. Maybe just exist for a while without someone telling me I wasn't good enough. But life doesn't work that way. Not when you've opened a door you can't close. It was a Tuesday night, about 2 weeks after the divorce was finalized. I was sitting on my couch, watching some mindless reality show, when my phone buzzed. Another unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. Hello. Rachel Keller. The voice was female. Unfamiliar. Who is this? I asked. My name is Vanessa Cole. I froze. Vanessa. The woman who'd been sleeping with my husband for 8 months. The woman who was now carrying his child. Why are you calling me? I asked, my voice cold. Because I need to talk to you, she said. Please. Just hear me out. Every instinct told me to hang up, to block her number, to never think about her again. But I didn't. You have 5 minutes, I said. She took a breath. Thank you. I know you have every reason to hate me. And I don't blame you. What I did was unforgivable. You're damn right it was, I said. I know, she said quickly. But I need you to understand something. Daniel told me you two were separated. He said you were getting divorced. He said you'd moved on. I felt my jaw clench. And you believed him? Yes, she said. I know that sounds stupid. But he was convincing. He showed me texts where you were cold to him. He said you'd checked out of the marriage months ago. Those texts were from after I found out he was cheating, I said. Of course I was cold to him. There was a long pause. I didn't know, she said softly. I swear, I didn't know until I got that package you sent. And yet you stayed with him, I said. Even after you knew the truth. For a while, she admitted. But then I found out I was pregnant. And everything changed. I closed my eyes. What do you want from me, Vanessa? I want to tell you the truth, she said. About Daniel. About everything. I already know the truth. No, she said. You don't. Not all of it. Something in her voice made me pause. What are you talking about? She hesitated. Can we meet? In person? I'll tell you everything. But I can't do it over the phone. Why should I trust you? Because I don't have anyone else to turn to, she said, her voice breaking. And because you deserve to know what kind of man you were married to. I sat there for a long moment, weighing my options. This could be a trap. This could be Daniel trying to manipulate me again, using Vanessa as a pawn. But something told me it wasn't. Something told me Vanessa was telling the truth. Where? I asked. The park on Riverside, she said. Tomorrow at noon. Fine, I said. But if this is some kind of setup. It's not, she said quickly. I promise. I just need to talk to you. And then she hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone, my mind spinning. What could Vanessa possibly have to tell me that I didn't already know? What truth could be so damning that she needed to warn me in person? I didn't sleep that night. I just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running through every possible scenario in my head. By the time noon rolled around, I was exhausted and on edge. But I went anyway. The park was quiet when I arrived. It was a weekday, and most people were at work. I found a bench near the fountain and sat down, watching the water, waiting. Vanessa showed up 10 minutes later. She looked different than I'd imagined. Younger. Maybe late 20s. She had long dark hair and pale skin, and she was wearing a loose sweater that couldn't quite hide the small bump of her stomach. She saw me and walked over, her hands shoved into her pockets. "Thank you for coming," she said, sitting down beside me but keeping a respectful distance. "Just tell me what you need to say," I said. She nodded. "Okay. I'll start from the beginning." She took a breath. "Daniel and I started seeing each other about 10 months ago. He told me he was separated from his wife. He said you two were living apart, that the divorce was just a formality." "He lied," I said flatly. "I know that now," she said. "But at the time, I believed him. He was charming. Attentive. He made me feel special." "Congratulations," I said bitterly. "He made me feel special too. Until he didn't." She winced. "I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just trying to explain." I didn't respond. I just waited. "About 2 months ago," she continued, "I started noticing things. He'd cancel plans at the last minute. He'd disappear for days without explanation. And when I'd ask him about it, he'd get defensive." "So you started to suspect he was lying," I said. "Yes," she said. "And then I got the package you sent. And I realized he'd been lying about everything." "Why didn't you leave him then?" "I tried," she said. "I confronted him at his office. I told him I never wanted to see him again. But then I found out I was pregnant." She looked down at her hands. And I thought, maybe this was a sign. Maybe we could make it work. Maybe he'd change. "Did he?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "No," she said quietly. "He got worse." "Worse how?" She took a shaky breath. "He started getting controlling. He wanted to know where I was all the time, who I was talking to. He'd show up at my apartment unannounced. And when I told him I needed space, he'd get angry." I felt a chill run down my spine. "Angry how?" "He never hit me," she said quickly. "But he'd yell. He'd throw things. He'd say horrible things to me. About me. About the baby." She wiped her eyes. "And then, a few days ago, I found something on his phone." "What?" She pulled out her phone and scrolled for a moment. Then she turned the screen toward me. It was a text conversation between Daniel and someone named Trevor. I read the messages, and with each word, my blood ran colder. Asterisk asterisk Daniel asterisk 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 I think I made a mistake with Vanessa dot asterisk. Asterisk asterisk Trevor asterisk 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 what kind of mistake? Asterisk. Asterisk asterisk Daniel asterisk 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 getting her pregnant. She's becoming a liability dot asterisk. Asterisk asterisk Trevor asterisk 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 what are you going to do? Asterisk. Asterisk asterisk Daniel asterisk 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 I'm working on it. There are ways to handle these things dot asterisk. Asterisk asterisk Trevor asterisk 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 you're not serious dot asterisk. Asterisk asterisk Daniel asterisk 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 I'm dead serious. I'm not about to let some gold digger ruin my life dot asterisk. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. What does he mean? There are ways to handle these things. "I don't know," Vanessa said, her voice shaking. "But I'm scared," Rachel. I'm really scared. I looked at her, and for the first time, I saw her not as the woman who destroyed my marriage, but as someone who was in danger. Have you gone to the police? I asked. She shook her head. And tell them what? That my boyfriend sent a vague text about handling me? They'd laugh me out of the station. She was right. Without more evidence, there was nothing the police could do. What do you want me to do? I asked. I don't know, she said. I needed to tell someone. And you're the only person who knows what he's really like. I sat there, my mind racing. Daniel was dangerous. I'd always known he was selfish, manipulative, dishonest. But this was different. This was something darker. Does he know you saw the messages? I asked. No, she said. I took a screenshot and then deleted it from his phone. He doesn't know I have it. Good, I said. Keep it that way. She nodded. Do you have somewhere safe to go? I asked. Somewhere he doesn't know about. I have a friend in Denver, she said. I've been thinking about going there. But I don't have much money. I thought for a moment. Then I made a decision. I'll help you, I said. She looked at me, surprised. Why would you do that? Because whatever you did, you don't deserve this, I said. And because if something happens to you, I'll never forgive myself for not doing something when I had the chance. She started crying. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me yet, I said. We need to be smart about this. We need to make sure he doesn't see this coming. And as I sat there, planning her escape, I realized something. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about survival. And I was going to make sure we both came out of this alive. Helping Vanessa meant crossing a line I never thought I'd cross. It meant putting myself back in Daniel's orbit when I'd worked so hard to get out. It meant risking everything I'd fought for. But I couldn't walk away. Not when I knew what he was capable of. Over the next few days, Vanessa and I met in secret to plan her escape. We'd meet in coffee shops on the other side of town, in parks where no one knew us, in places where Daniel would never think to look. I gave her money, some from my settlement, money I'd been saving to start my new life. But her life was more important than my comfort. I'll pay you back, she said every time I handed her cash. Don't worry about it, I told her. Just focus on getting out. We worked out every detail. She'd tell Daniel she was going to visit her mother in Ohio. She'd pack a small bag, nothing that would raise suspicion. And then, instead of going to Ohio, she'd take a bus to Denver. Her friend there, a woman named Kate, had agreed to let her stay as long as she needed. Kate didn't know the full story, but she knew enough to know Vanessa was in trouble. When are you leaving? I asked during one of our meetings. Next Friday, Vanessa said. Daniel's going to be at a conference that day. He'll be gone all weekend. It's the perfect window. What about after? I asked. What if he comes looking for you? Kate lives in a secure building, Vanessa said. And I'm going to get a restraining order as soon as I get there. I've been documenting everything, the messages, the times he's shown up at my apartment uninvited, all of it. I nodded. Good. That's good. But even as I said it, I felt uneasy. Because I knew Daniel. And I knew he wasn't the type to just let her go. If you've ever tried to help someone escape a dangerous situation, you know that feeling. That constant, nagging worry that you've missed something. That something's going to go wrong. And you're never really sure if you're helping or just making things worse. The night before Vanessa was supposed to leave, I got a call from Julian. Rachel, we need to talk, he said, his voice urgent. What's wrong? Daniel knows. My blood went cold. Knows what? That you and Vanessa have been meeting, Julian said. Kevin mentioned something to him. I don't know how much he knows, but he's suspicious. Damn it, I muttered. Rachel, You need to be careful, Julian said. If he finds out you're helping her. I know, I said. I'll handle it. How? I don't know yet, I admitted. But I'll figure it out. I hung up and immediately called Vanessa. We need to move up the timeline, I said as soon as she answered. Can you leave tomorrow? Tomorrow? Rachel, I'm not ready. It doesn't matter, I said. Daniel knows we've been meeting. If we wait until Friday, he might try to stop you. There was a long pause. Okay, she said finally. Okay. I'll leave tomorrow. I'll pick you up at 6 a.m., I said. Pack tonight. Only essentials. And don't tell anyone. Not even Kate. Why not Kate? Because the fewer people who know, the better, I said. I'll call her once you're on the bus and tell her you're coming. Okay, Vanessa said, her voice shaking. Thank you, Rachel. Just be ready, I said. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. What if Daniel showed up at Vanessa's apartment before I could get there? What if he followed us? What if this whole thing blew up in our faces? But I couldn't back out now. Vanessa was counting on me. I set my alarm for 5 a.m. and forced myself to close my eyes. The next morning, I drove to Vanessa's apartment in the dark, my heart pounding the entire way. I kept checking my rearview mirror, paranoid that Daniel was following me. But the streets were empty. Just me and the early morning joggers. I pulled up outside her building and texted her, *I'm here. She came out a minute later, carrying a single duffel bag. Her face was pale, her eyes red from crying. She got in the car, and I pulled away from the curb without saying a word. We drove in silence for the first 10 minutes. Then Vanessa said, "What if this doesn't work?" "It'll work," I said, even though I wasn't sure. "But what if he finds me?" "He won't," I said firmly. "You're going to be in Denver. You're going to get a restraining order. And you're going to be safe." She nodded, but I could see she didn't believe me. We got to the bus station just before 7. The place was already busy, people heading to work, families traveling, students going home for the holidays. I bought Vanessa's ticket in cash, using a fake name. The clerk didn't even blink. "Your bus leaves in 20 minutes, I told her, handing her the ticket. "Gate 12. She took it, her hands trembling. "Rachel, I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to," I said. "Just promise me you'll be careful." "I will," she said. "I promise." She hugged me then, and I let her. Because despite everything, despite the affair, despite the betrayal, she was just a scared woman trying to escape a dangerous man. And I knew what that felt like. "Go," I said, pulling back. "Before I change my mind." She smiled weakly, then turned and walked toward the gate. I watched her until she disappeared into the crowd. And then I got back in my car and drove home, praying I'd done the right thing. But the universe wasn't done with me yet. That afternoon, I got a call from Daniel. I almost didn't answer. But I knew that ignoring him would only make things worse. "What do you want?" I asked. "Where is she?" he demanded. "Where's who?" "Don't play games with me, Rachel. Vanessa's gone. Her apartment's empty. And I know you had something to do with it." "I don't know what you're talking about," I said calmly. "Bullshit," he snarled. "People have seen you two together. You've been helping her. And now she's disappeared." "Maybe she finally realized what kind of person you are," I said. "Maybe she decided she didn't want to raise a child with someone like you." "You have no idea what you've done," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "You have no idea how much trouble you're in." "Is that a threat?" I asked. "It's a promise," he said. And then he hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone, my hands shaking. Daniel was furious. And furious men do stupid things. I needed to protect myself. And I needed to do it fast. I called Patricia immediately. Daniel just threatened me, I said. I need to know what my options are. What did he say? She asked. I told her about the phone call, and she was quiet for a moment. File a police report, she said. Document everything. And if he contacts you again, don't respond. Let it go to voicemail so you have a record. What if he does more than just call? I asked. Then we get a restraining order, Patricia said. But Rachel, you need to be careful. If he's as angry as you say he is, there's no telling what he'll do. I knew she was right. But I also knew I couldn't live my life in fear. I'll be careful, I said. But even as I said it, I wondered if careful would be enough. Daniel didn't call again. But that didn't mean he'd given up. Over the next week, strange things started happening. My car had a flat tire one morning. The mechanic said it looked like someone had slashed it, a clean cut, deliberate. Someone went through my mailbox, scattering letters across my front steps. My landlord mentioned that a man had been asking about me, claiming to be an old friend. And then there were the messages. Not from Daniel directly, but from unknown numbers. Short, cryptic, threatening. Asterisk, you shouldn't have gotten involved. Asterisk. Asterisk, this isn't over. Asterisk. Asterisk, you're going to regret what you did. Asterisk. I saved every single one. I took them to the police, filed a report, got a restraining order. But the officer who took my statement looked at me with that familiar expression, the one that said he'd seen this 1,000 times before, and it never ended well. I'd recommend you stay with friends or family for a while, he said. Just until things cool down. I don't have family here, I said. And I'm not going to let him chase me out of my own home. The officer nodded, but I could see he thought I was making a mistake. Maybe I was. But I was tired of running. Tired of being afraid. Tired of letting Daniel control my life. So I stayed. And I waited. Jennifer tried to get me to come stay with her, but I refused. Julian called to check on me every day, offering to come sit outside my apartment if I needed him to. I'm fine, I kept telling everyone. I can handle this. But the truth was, I was terrified. Every noise made me jump. Every car that drove past my building made my heart race. I started sleeping with a baseball bat next to my bed and checking the locks on my doors 3 times before I went to sleep. This was what Daniel had reduced me to. A woman living in fear, looking over her shoulder, wondering when the other shoe would drop. And then, 2 weeks after Vanessa left, it finally did. I was coming home from school one afternoon when I saw him. Standing in the parking lot of my apartment building, leaning against his car, arms crossed. Daniel. My stomach dropped. But I didn't turn around. I didn't run. I walked straight toward him, my keys clutched in my hand like a weapon. You're not supposed to be here, I said when I was close enough. There's a restraining order. I know, he said. I don't care. I'll call the police. Go ahead, he said. I'll be gone before they get here. But we need to talk. We have nothing to talk about, I said. Yes, we do, he said, his voice cold. You helped Vanessa disappear. You turned her against me. And now I can't find her. Good, I said. That was the point. His jaw clenched. Where is she? I don't know. Liar. I'm not lying, I said. I helped her get on a bus. Where she went after that is none of my business. She's carrying my child, he said. I have a right to know where she is. You lost that right when you threatened her, I said. When you made her afraid for her life. I never threatened her, he said. I saw the messages, Daniel, I said. The ones where you talked about handling her. About how she was a liability. His eyes narrowed. She showed you those? Yes. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Of course she did. She's trying to make me look like the bad guy. You are the bad guy, I said. You cheated on me. You lied to her. You manipulated everyone around you. And now you're standing in my parking lot, violating a restraining order, because you can't stand the fact that you don't have control anymore. You think you're so smart, he said, stepping closer. You think you won. But you have no idea what you've started. Is that another threat? I asked, my hand moving toward my phone. It's the truth, he said. You cost me my relationship. You cost me my child. And I'm going to make sure you pay for that. Get out of here, Daniel, I said, before I call the police and have you arrested. For a moment, I thought he might actually hit me. His hands clenched into fists, and I saw something dark flash in his eyes. But then he stepped back. This isn't over, Rachel. Yes, it is, I said. It's been over for a long time. You just didn't want to admit it. He stared at me for another long moment. Then he turned and got in his car. I watched him drive away, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. And then I went inside, locked every lock, and called the police. They came and took my statement. They added this incident to the report. They told me they'd increase patrols in my area. But I knew it wouldn't be enough. Because Daniel was obsessed. And obsessed men don't stop until they get what they want, or until someone stops them. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to every creak and groan of the building, wondering if Daniel would come back. And then my phone rang. It was 3 a.m. I grabbed it, my heart racing, expecting to see another unknown number. But it was Vanessa. Rachel. Her voice was shaking. Rachel, he found me. I sat up, my blood running cold. What? He's here, she said. He's outside Kate's building. He's been calling me, texting me, saying he just wants to talk. Don't go outside, I said. Call the police. Right now. I already did, she said. They are on their way. But Rachel, how did he find me? I was so careful. I thought fast. Does Kate have social media? Did she post anything about you being there? There was a pause. Oh God. She posted a picture of us at dinner last week. She tagged the restaurant. That's how, I said. He must have been watching her accounts. What do I do? Vanessa asked, her voice breaking. What if he doesn't leave? Stay inside, I said. Keep your doors locked. And don't hang up. I'm going to stay on the phone with you until the police get there. Okay, she said. Okay. We stayed on the phone together, two women connected by the same man who'd tried to destroy us both. I could hear her breathing, fast and shallow, could hear the distant sound of Daniel shouting outside. And then I heard sirens. Do you hear that? I asked. Yes, Vanessa said. They're here. I heard voices, heard Daniel arguing with someone, heard the police telling him to calm down or he'd be arrested. And then, finally, silence. He's gone, Vanessa said. They made him leave. Good, I said. Did they arrest him? No, she said. They said he didn't technically do anything illegal. But they took a report. And they told him if he comes back, they'll charge him with stalking. It wasn't enough. But it was something. Are you okay? I asked. I think so, she said. Kate wants me to stay somewhere else. She's scared he'll come back. She's probably right, I said. Do you have anywhere else you can go? I have a cousin in Portland, Vanessa said. Maybe I can go there. Do it, I said. And Vanessa, don't tell anyone where you're going. Not even me. The fewer people who know, the safer you'll be. Okay, she said quietly. Thank you, Rachel. For everything. Take care of yourself, I said. And take care of that baby. I will, she said. And then she hung up. I sat there in the dark, holding my phone, and I realized something. This wasn't just about me and Daniel anymore. This wasn't just about a failed marriage or revenge or making him pay for what he'd done. This was about survival. For me. For Vanessa. For an unborn child who deserved better than a father like Daniel. And I was going to make sure we all survived. No matter what it took. The next morning, I called Patricia. I need to do something, I said. Something that will make Daniel stop. Permanently. What are you thinking? She asked cautiously. I want to report him, I said. For harassment. For stalking. For threatening both me and Vanessa. I want to build a case that will make it impossible for him to keep doing this. That's going to be difficult, Patricia said. The restraining order is a start, but unless he actually violates it in a way that can be proven. Then we'll prove it, I said. I have the messages. Vanessa has her documentation. We have witnesses. We have everything we need. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Rachel, this is going to get messy. It's going to drag you back into his life in a way you might not want. I don't care, I said. I'm done being afraid. I'm done letting him win. Okay, Patricia said finally. Let's do it. Over the next month, we built our case. We compiled every message, every incident, every witness statement we could find. We documented Daniel's pattern of behavior, the lies, the manipulation, the threats. And then we took it to the district attorney's office. At first, they were skeptical. These kinds of cases are hard to prosecute, the assistant DA told us. Without physical violence, it's difficult to prove intent. He doesn't need to be violent to be dangerous, I said. He's been terrorizing 2 women for months. He's violated a restraining order. He tracked down his ex-girlfriend and showed up at her home in the middle of the night. If that's not criminal behavior, I don't know what is. The assistant DA looked through our documentation. And slowly, I saw her expression change. This is good, she said finally. This is really good. I think we have enough to charge him with stalking and harassment. What happens now? I asked. Now we issue a warrant, she said. And we bring him in. 3 days later, Daniel was arrested at his office. Owen, who'd been keeping tabs on him, called to tell me. They got him, he said. Walked right into his meeting and cuffed him in front of everyone. I closed my eyes, letting the relief wash over me. Good. There's more, Owen said. His firm put him on leave, pending the outcome of the case. What about Vanessa? I asked. Is she safe? She's in Portland, Owen said. She's staying with her cousin. Daniel doesn't know where she is. Okay, I said. Okay, good. Rachel, Owen said. You did it. You stopped him. We stopped him, I corrected. All of us. And for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Daniel's trial took place 6 months later. By then, I'd rebuilt my life. I'd moved to a new apartment in a different part of town. I'd started seeing a therapist to work through everything that had happened. I'd even started dating again, nothing serious, just coffee dates and casual dinners with men who didn't make me feel small. I was becoming myself again. Or maybe I was becoming someone new. Someone stronger. Someone who knew her worth. The day of the trial, I wore a navy blue suit and walked into that courtroom with my head held high. Vanessa was there too, flown in from Portland to testify. She was 6 months pregnant now, her belly round and prominent. We sat on opposite sides of the courtroom, not enemies, but not exactly friends either. Just 2 women who'd survived the same man. Daniel's lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive, as a scorned ex-wife who was trying to ruin an innocent man's life out of spite. But the evidence didn't lie. The messages. the restraining order violations, the testimony from witnesses who'd seen Daniel's behavior, Vanessa's account of being threatened and stalked. It all added up to a pattern of abuse, manipulation, and control. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. When the verdict was read, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: vindication. Daniel was sentenced to 18 months in jail, with 3 years of probation after his release. He was also ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from both me and Vanessa, and to have no contact with either of us. It wasn't everything I'd hoped for, but it was enough. After the trial, Vanessa and I stood outside the courthouse, neither of us quite sure what to say. "Thank you," she said finally, "for everything. I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm grateful for it." I looked at her, this woman who'd been part of the worst chapter of my life, and I realized something. I didn't hate her. Not anymore. "You deserve to be safe," I said. "That's all that mattered." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I'm going to be a better person. For my baby. I'm going to make sure they never end up with someone like Daniel." "That's all any of us can do," I said. "Learn from our mistakes and do better." She hugged me then, and I let her. And when she pulled away, she said, "If you're ever in Portland, look me up. I'd love for you to meet the baby." I smiled. "Maybe I will." And then we went our separate ways. 2 women who'd been destroyed by the same man, now building new lives on our own terms. In the weeks after the trial, I thought a lot about everything that had happened. About the woman I'd been when I met Daniel, naive, trusting, willing to overlook red flags because I was afraid of being alone. And about the woman I'd become, strong, independent, unwilling to settle for less than I deserved. The journey from one to the other hadn't been easy. It had been painful and messy and full of moments when I wanted to give up. But I didn't give up. And that made all the difference. I started writing about my experience. Not for publication, not for anyone else, just for me. I needed to make sense of what had happened, to see my story laid out on paper so I could understand how I'd gotten from there to here. And as I wrote, I realized something. This wasn't just my story. This was the story of thousands of women who'd been made to feel small by men who were supposed to love them. Women who'd been lied to, cheated on, manipulated, and controlled. Women who'd fought back. So I decided to share it. I started a blog, posting my story anonymously at first. I wrote about the warning signs I'd missed. About the moment I realized my marriage was over. About the process of gathering evidence and fighting back. And the response was overwhelming. Women from all over the world reached out to me. They shared their own stories, their own struggles, their own victories. They thanked me for giving them hope, for showing them that it was possible to escape and rebuild. And slowly, I realized that what Daniel had meant to destroy me had actually made me stronger. He'd tried to break me. But instead, he'd forged me into someone who couldn't be broken. About a year after the trial, I got a message from Julian. "How are you doing?" he asked. "I'm good," I replied. "Really good, actually. I'm glad, he said. "You deserve to be happy. So do you, I wrote back. Thank you for everything you did. I wouldn't have made it through without you. You would have, he said. You're stronger than you think. We stayed in touch after that. Not constantly, but enough to check in, to make sure the other was okay. He'd become an unexpected friend through all of this, someone who'd stood up for me when no one else would. I never heard from Daniel again. He served his sentence, and when he got out, he moved to another state. I heard through the grapevine that he'd gotten a job in sales, that he'd started dating someone new. Part of me felt sorry for her. But I'd learned that you can't save everyone. You can only save yourself. And that's exactly what I'd done. Now, 3 years after that Thanksgiving party, I'm sitting in my own house, A small cottage I bought with the settlement money, writing this story. I'm 37 years old. I'm single. I'm happy. I have a job I love, teaching third grade now at a school that values and respects me. I have friends who support me. I have a life that's entirely my own. And every day, I wake up grateful that I walked away when I did. Grateful that I fought back. Grateful that I survived. Because here's what I learned. You can't control what people do to you. But you can control how you respond. You can choose to stay broken. Or you can choose to rebuild. You can choose to be a victim. Or you can choose to be a survivor. And I chose survival. If you're reading this, if you're in a situation where someone is making you feel small, making you doubt yourself, making you believe you're not good enough, please hear me when I say this. You are enough. You've always been enough. And you deserve so much better than someone who can't see that. It won't be easy to walk away. It won't be quick. It won't be painless. But it will be worth it. Because on the other side of that pain is freedom. And peace. And the kind of happiness you can only find when you're living authentically, as yourself, without someone telling you who you should be. 3 years ago, I thought my life was over. I thought Daniel had taken everything from me. My marriage, my home, my sense of self. But I was wrong. He didn't take anything from me. He just showed me what I was capable of surviving. And I survived. And I thrived. And I became the woman I was always meant to be. So if you're watching this from somewhere in the world, know that you're not alone. Know that there are thousands of us out there, women who've been where you are, who've felt what you're feeling, who've walked the path you're walking. And we made it through. And you will too. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. And if you want to hear more stories like this one, stories about women who refused to stay silent, who fought back, who reclaimed their lives, check the description box below. There are more stories there, stories that might resonate with you, stories that might give you hope. And remember, you are stronger than you think, braver than you believe, and worthy of so much more than you've been told. Don't ever forget that. My name is Rachel. And this is my story. Not of how a man destroyed me, but of how I destroyed the version of myself that was willing to accept less than I deserved, and built something better in its place. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more empowering stories about resilience, strength, and reclaiming your power, make sure to check the description box below. There are more stories waiting for you. Stories about women who refused to be broken, who stood up for themselves, and who came out stronger on the other side. Thank you for watching. And remember, you are never alone.